Phone silent.
We still got a few minutes here.
No worries. Sean, which is your favourite jersey behind you?
Probably the middle one. Probably.
In AC?
Yeah, Kaka.
Kaka.
Probably. Yeah. I know I've got quite a few in like a bag. Like I've got Buffon's jersey just in the bag upstairs.
In a bag upstairs. I love it.
Can you believe that? I've got one of my rugby jerseys up.
Mainly coaches, you were saying, Mike, yes?
Yeah. Mainly directors, club directors.
The guy from the union, is he American?
I believe so. I literally just hired him.
Yeah, I thought that. They've just started some young players to come through, haven't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's been a few clubs that are doing a really good job with the youth development. One of them, FC Dallas, in Major League Soccer. But there's one in the USL, which is really interesting. It's San Antonio, obviously also in Texas, but they're doing.
He was a manager, right? He used to be at Orlando when I was there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And then the model that Seattle Sounders have, obviously they've won the MLS Cup. They have their second team plays in the USL, second division. And if you look at their roster, most of their players are born between 2002 and 2001. You know, they have really, really young players for their second team. So they don't do very well in the USL. But it seems it's obviously bearing fruit from the first team perspective because they're doing so well in Major League Soccer.
I think it's such a fantastic model. You know, you see like Barcelona B or Real Madrid play, they obviously play lower down, don't they? Ajax, I think, do it. And, you know, for young players, I watched Bayern Munich 2 recently, and they're playing like the lower league of German, but like against men. So their development is, and the games are real, got proper fans. So it makes the game like lots to win for, you know? So for the young players' development, I think it's fantastic.
No, I agree. It'd be interesting to see. Germany does the same model as well, and this is something that a lot of the Major League Soccer teams are doing. What they're looking at now is a lot of Major League Soccer teams have their second team in the second division, which is USL Championship, and they're not competing at quite a level. They're not putting as much resources as the other championship teams, so they might push them down to the USL League One, which is the third division.
Yeah.
Which probably makes sense from a league perspective as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give it a few more minutes before we get started to let people get on here, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So a few more minutes.
No worries.
10 a.m. there, right?
10 a.m.
Yeah. What's the pandemic been like there?
It's been interesting in San Francisco. You know, California has had very strict standards, and San Francisco has been the strictest in California.
Really?
So we've shut down things pretty quick, and it's been an incredible week this week with weather-wise. So it's pretty tough to keep people inside and not at the beach. But
same as England.
Yeah, no, I've heard. I'm assuming that I'm hoping that we'll get some clarity and some guidelines in this next week about returning to play and stuff. So it'll be interesting.
Is it easing though?
Yeah, definitely.
Everything's easing. Okay.
Yeah, definitely is. with San Francisco, with the restrictions that London Mayor Breed put in place so soon, there's definitely quite a few cases, but not near as bad as what it could have been. Being a port city with so much trading and people coming in and out.
Yeah, true.
Okay, I think maybe we can get started and just let the people trickle in as they come. So thanks everyone for joining us. This is our second to last webinar that we're doing in this series. It's been an incredible month of webinars. Saving the best for last. This is the one I'm most excited about. We have Jason Donohue and Sean St. Ledger here. Jason is the head coach of the U15 Irish national team. Sean is his assistant. Sean also had an incredible playing career. And Jason, in addition to his job with his role at the U15 national team, he is a UEFA tutor, coach education for the Football Association of Ireland. And today they're going to be giving a webinar on developing a playing style in the attacking side of the ball. So without further ado, Jason, up to you, man.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for inviting us on. We're looking forward to this. Put a bit of planning in her all week just to make sure we can provide good information for you guys over there and hopefully to make a difference with your club. What we've done is we've devised it in a couple of ways. So we have a small PowerPoint. We have a couple of videos. And in the meantime, we would love if any questions come into you. And if we don't hit any of the questions in terms of answers, by the end of it, then hopefully we can have a good dialogue and answer any questions that they might have that we haven't covered. Is that okay? Sean, would you like to say that just to welcome yourself?
No, just to echo what you just said, and again to say thank you for allowing us to share our thoughts and our process.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen. So basically what we've done is when we were asked to look at developing an attacking philosophy, for example, we looked at it and we sort of stripped it right back to our environment. So we work off pillars. So we created down to 6 pillars. So I'm just going to share my screen and show you now. Just one second. So basically, when we were looking to develop an attacking style of play, we work off the 6 pillars. And the 6 pillars that we work off to develop that is obviously, we devise as staff, as an association. So if we were an academy club over in the US, we would have to make sure that everybody understands what way we want to play, how we develop that. It's important that we get the right bodies to fit the way we want to play as well. How we work our training environment, how we work our environment off the pitch. So for example, as coaches will know, we could be away playing 3 games in an 8-day period, and 10% of that time we're away is on the pitch. So, what else do you do with the rest of your time, So how can you make that development of players holistic? The training methods, which is vitally important for us. So for example, we played Spain recently, we played Poland recently, England recently, and we might have only had 2 training sessions before we even played that type of opposition. So it's what you do, the method that you use in your training session to get across your attacking principles. A big one for me was to make sure, same with all your academies, it's so important that you make sure that all your staff are all together, they all understand their roles, clarity, and obviously how do you measure performance? So is it individual development to get them ready for your first team? Is it academy football? So it's about development versus winning, which comes in more important. So we're going to cover bits of that with some videos as well as we go along. Is that okay? Great stuff. Okay, so just a quick one. The philosophy that we play, and Sean just come in and out all the time,
yeah.
we go out to win every game. From a coach's perspective, we won't play all the same players. We will guarantee equal playing time where we can. Everybody will start 1 of 2 games if we have a double header. But it's important that we have a mindset to go out and win games. So we don't go onto the pitch not to lose, to stifle opponents. We go out and we try to win games. So with that in mind, our attacking philosophy then has to be in possession of the ball as much as we possibly can. And that allows us to show you some good clips today where we broke down tactically and how we employ our principles of play. I'll let Sean come in after this one with me. I'm very, 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 very big on making sure that when players go onto the pitch, they have to play with freedom and be able to express themselves. They cannot have people shouting and giving out or parents on the sideline. They cannot. Your training environment should be where all the teaching happens, and the game is basically like the test in school. Let the kids go out, let them play, and then when you get your opportunities at half-time or after the game, you can go reflect and self-analyze the game then. But so important that kids go on the pitch with no fear, not worried about making mistakes. Because go on, Sean.
No, I just think that moving on, obviously, from that, is that the players need to be able to enjoy going out onto a football field and have no fear, as you just said, or what's going to go onto the sideline. Because I think that in what we're trying to create is obviously a learning environment, and to do that, you want to make it fun. And so I think what Jason said then is true. You know, we want to send the players onto the field with lots of belief and lots of confidence that, you know, that they can make mistakes.
Yeah, it's a key one for me, you know, and especially when you're doing that attacking style of play, because what you've got to do, you've got to gain possession of the ball from your backline, your goalkeeper, your backline, your midfielders, to progress up the pitch. And if you cannot keep the ball in your own half of the pitch under pressure, you'll end up giving away the ball a lot, or you'll end up going long. So you're not going to get the ball to dominate possession. So it all comes hand in hand with each other, if that makes sense to you guys. Match game scenarios. So we would cover our training sessions would all be based on the game. So we would start with the 11v11 game and we'll strip it back. So it might be the back line playing out against a 3, back line playing out against a 2, which will show you some clips going forward. Another key one for me, again, Sean will come in after this one, but key one for me is 11 voices on the pitch. So even though the kids might be 14, 15 years of age, it's so important that they get comfortable in their own surroundings, that they can talk to each other on the pitch, respect each other. So that environment that we set has to be safe, where people are allowed to voice their opinion. It might not always be correct, but it's important that the players get used to being able to talk to each other on the pitch, instruct each other on the pitch. For me, the key is that players are teaching themselves on the pitch. That's really the holy grail of coaching. You could be telling them, but when they're telling themselves the correct information, you've done your job as a coach. So one key information I would tell all the coaches here today is try to get your players instructing your teammates the right information that you want. And when you achieve that, you're really, really improving your team.
Yeah, again, I think that when we have a new group that come in at the start of the year, you always see the ones which are really confident, have no fear about speaking in front of groups. And then you have the ones that are very quite within themselves, quite shy. But I think over the years period that we have the players, and I think we'll obviously show a little video later on with them, we hope that from the start until the end that we can obviously see a difference and try and give them that confidence that they can voice their opinions, whether it be on the pitch or outside of it.
Yeah, it's so important. You know, that decision making they make on the pitch is where they actually learn. So when we go into your training methods, everything you do should, right, if the coaches are there with a pen, communication, decision making and execution. The 3 main components in every training session you should plan: communication, decision making and execution.
Jason, I got a question here for you. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Any tips on how to encourage chat with the 11 in training exercises and games? The U.S. soccer culture is very quiet.
The key would be ask them, sit them in a dressing room and ask them to devise a training session themselves. Give them a few days to do it and come back and let them do it. You'd be surprised. I have a video to show you when we got our 14-year-olds in, the first time came into us, and we basically told them to take over the tactics of the team. And I'll show you a little video of that later on. But challenge them, give them tasks, but don't put them under pressure. So don't say, listen, you have a task, you have 15 minutes to come up with a warm-up. But you might say, listen, in your little groups of 3, I want you to go off and I want you to plan next week's training in terms of what you would like in training. Couple important things with that is, one, you'll actually get to see what they want in training. So maybe what we're doing in training is exactly not what the players want. Two, you'll get them working as little groups, so they're working and trusting each other. And three, then you're going to see their level of knowledge and where they are. But the main thing about that is giving them accountability, give them responsibility, but also give them ownership. And the younger age you do that, and drip feed it, they will make mistakes. That's fine. Try it, and then try it the next time, and you'll see a level of improvement all the time going up that ladder. Okay. Do you want to talk about individual versus team development, Sean? So an under 15 player.
Yeah, I think that obviously one of the most important things, especially at the age of 14, is there's a huge focus on the individual development, and that will benefit the team over the season. I think it's something that we have focused on, certainly, and I think that individual education can come through showing videos to the actual player, and what I found with young players is that they imitate their heroes. So if we're talking about a striker, he might want to end up like Sergio Aguero or Mo Salah, Sadio Mane. So then let's try and show them videos of what their characteristics are, their strengths, their weaknesses. How can we relate it to this individual? And then that might be a process in a way of them being able to learn. Because look, everyone watches football, loves football. And then we continue to focus on their strengths. And I'm a big believer in focusing on their strengths. Can we continue to enhance them? And then at the same time, can we work on what they're maybe not so good at? I don't like using the word weaknesses. I think you say that to a young player, then he goes, oh, I have a weakness. No, it's just something that, you're 14 years of age, you will continue to develop and improve.
Little scenario that we do that might help your coaches there, Mike. Little scenario would be, so if I went to a kid and he's a centre back, so we'll use Sean, for example, as a centre back at a high level. And I asked a kid at 14 and 15, who's the best player you know in your position? Sean, who's the best centre back? Van Dijk? Possibly?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. 100%.
So what we would do then is we would ask him then to have a look at some videos of Van Dijk and what makes him so well. What makes him play so well. And then every week when he comes in, we would ask him, what have you done to improve your performance so you can be the next Van Dijk? And again, given the ownership, but the player then is looking at the position, the inside game awareness of playing as a centre-back, in possession, out of possession, or in transition. So it's another little one for your coaches, young players, ask them, Ronaldo is a winger. But what makes Ronaldo good? And ask them, what are they doing to get as close as you can to Ronaldo as they're getting older through the academy? Is that okay? Just a quick one. We're going to go into a little video now in a second, but this is, it's so important in our academy, in our environment in the under 15s, that everybody understands this. This basically is our training sessions here. So people always ask me, have you any diagrams? This is our training sessions. So everything we do must have this information in it in terms of attacking. So if we're doing, for example, we're gone away from doing the rondo. So everyone does a 4v2 or a 5v2 rondo. We've gone away from a rondo now and we're doing a 4v4 game. So it might be a 3-team game. So 2 teams will be in possession, which creates the overload, and 1 team will be defending. But when a team loses possession of the ball, they now will join the team who were defending to make the 8v4. So basically, the 4 functions of the game is always in play. So kids are always either attacking, quickly transitioning to defending, or quickly transitioning when they win the ball. So important that the elements of the game all the time are in our practices. And the reason being is we want to get decision makers on the pitch. So the more decisions, the repetition of decisions they make on the training pitch, it will come natural to them, come second nature to them when they're under pressure on the pitch. Hopefully people will understand what I'm saying there. So everything we do is here. This is our session plan for attacking. You'll see going forward. Last little slide. what we want to do is we want to establish good possession and control the game from the outset. We're looking to create and penetrate from midfield, whether it's, you know, create overloads, whether it's create time in the ball, create space in midfield. We're looking to penetrate, whether it's that dribbling forward, running forward, or passing forward. And obviously, when we get to the final tour, the hard one, obviously, is to score goals. But we give freedom to the players to express themselves. And when we look at developing an attacking style of play, this basically is how we do it. 3 thirds, and then the principles that go within the 3 thirds. And every training session we do and every way we play is based around this. Is that okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go on to a little video. So we played, we played a lot of games this year. We played 10 games, but I've only taken 2 games where we played Poland, who played a 1-3-5-2 system. So made things a little difficult for our boys because they weren't used to it. And we played England then, who played a 1-4-3-3 with basically a pivot man, a number 6 who was sitting back. Okay, so go on to a little video of Poland. Sean will talk about 1 or 2 things at the start, and then I'll go in from then. Is that okay? So hopefully coaches will be able to see, these are our principles and this is our performances. So hopefully now can we translate this information, they're not just words, this information onto the pitch. So it's a short video, I won't keep it too long. So there's a back 4 goalkeeper and our 6. So we play a 4-3-3 system. Now if you have a look at this, there's Poland's 2 strikers and the midfield. So Poland are playing a 3-5-2. So the 7 is a wing back here, as you would see, the 2 strikers. So what we would do, we would swing into a 3 as one of the principles you would have seen. So now our centre back comes centrally, creates some space. And now we've got 4v2 rondo that people do talk about, and we've got time to receive. Now, the goalkeeper highlighted here because he hasn't moved and he should be given a better angle. So angle and distance of support to make sure we've good possession of the ball. Now what we've done is, when we stop it there, as you can see, 7 of Poland's pressing players now are out of the equation. So it's important now that when we do create that little overload, it's on the far side of the pitch. We've taken their players out. And now when you look, we've got a 4v2 on the far side of the pitch. So how can we exploit that? Sean will come in on the second clip just in a second. So this is where we're talking about express yourself, 1v1 situation. 3 men in the box, midfielder supporting, and then the 6 for defensive balance. So you can have that attacking principles, but your team have to be in a good structure. Second one here, you might come in this one, Sean.
Yeah, I think obviously before we played this game, we was able to get some footage of Poland, and they played a 3-5-2. So we ask ourselves a question, who's going to be the free player when we play against a 3-5-2? And more often than not, the free player is going to be the fullbacks. Okay, if you can keep, obviously we're playing a 1-4-3-3 formation, you're highly likely it will be the fullback. Okay, so the objective is to try and get the ball out to the fullback. And as we play from here, I think you should see that that's what happens.
There's our free players that we're looking at. So how can we get the ball to them? And that's exactly what we would have covered in training. Centre back, out to the fullback, free players. Now, I'm going to stop it just here now when you see James. It's important for James, we're talking about clear passing lines. So if you look at James now, he's running in a position and he realises the 3 bodies around him. So his awareness, it's important that he gets in a position to receive. So if he's checking his shoulders all the time, just have a quick look. And then he just checks his run. So it's important he checks. And now he received and he's facing forward. And if you look ahead of the ball, we've got a 3v3 and we've got a lot of width into the game as well. So again, that's the most important part. We create and establish possession. Now we create time and space in midfield. And hopefully when we get it forward, then we're looking at to express yourself in the 1v1s and so forth. So I'll just play her on. Again, they're putting us under a little bit of pressure. No rush. Positions to receive. Now, most people would say here, the centre back, pass it to a full back. Now, we want them to drive in, create that overload in midfield. His pass isn't good this time, but we allow it. It's okay, because you made the right decision by driving in. His improvement point might be there just to calm himself down and the quality of pass. This is the one, Sean. Sean, I'll let you come in on this one. This is the one you were talking about, the fullback being the free player.
Yeah.
So it's the decision the goalkeeper makes.
Yeah, it's obviously a really good decision. He sees, obviously, the left back is the free player in this situation. The left-sided forward is keeping the right-sided centre-back high. Now, obviously, the Poland wing-back steps out of his position. Where's all the space? The space is obviously where the wing-backs just come from. And then as you touched on, you know, we spoke about expressing yourself in the final third. And I think this is a prime example of letting the player, especially when they're at this age, go and dribble. You know, I think it's a fantastic way of eliminating opponent by the dribble. And I think in this year's squad that he was one of our best players, and you would fancy him in a 1v1 scenario. So as much as you can you get to him, get the ball to him in 1v1 situations?
And what we'll do is we'll show you here now. It goes back. This is just a little bit, just in terms of, we're talking about penetrating. So this is important for coaches. When you're penetrating, you need to dribble forward, run forward, or pass forward. And it's quick. It's quick combinations. So we're in our own half. Now all of a sudden we squeeze the play. We get a chance off, the keeper pulls off a good save. Now, this is the one that Sean's talking about. So this is Kevin's goal, Sean, if you want to elaborate just on what you were talking about there. He's just checking here, seeing his space, where the wing back is. Yeah,
it was. Obviously, he's found himself in a little bit of space, and you'll see that I think the Poland defender engages with him. Now, as we know that the space is left by the Poland. Good movement by the centre forward to link up the play. And as you see, there's the space. Now, he's found himself in a similar situation to the last clip that we saw. And again, able to express himself, and he scores, obviously, a fantastic goal.
Now, the reason I've got the recap in here is I want people to see it's not just words. You've got to bring your philosophy, your principles onto the pitch. And you got to allow them to be applied on the pitch. So your training sessions and your words, your training sessions, and then your performances. Mike, I can give you this presentation after this if you like. There's no issues. You can have anything that we show, if any of your coaches feel like you want anything. Would there be any questions there at the moment in time?
Not yet.
No? Okay, we'll move on a little bit. So quickly move on. So just one or two more clips. I wanted just to progress. So again, we can't go out one side of the pitch. We've got to realise we've got 2,000 players in Ireland. We started off with, at this age group, I think with 60 players, Sean.
Yeah.
Poland have something like 10,000 players playing in their grassroots and academy system, where we've 2,000. So, you know, these performances for us have been fantastic. There's the shape. You're looking at that. Who's our free players again? There's your overload, 2v1, 3v1 on the outside, little rondo. The wing back caught our possession. Didn't quite get out that time. But one of them is always switch and play. Can we develop 1v1s to players to express themselves and get crosses in? There's the fullback who's a free player all the time. So if you're playing against a 1-3-5-2 and you're a 1-4-3-3, you nearly all the time will have a 2v1 on the outside. Just for the coaches, you nearly all the time. So I'll hold it there, and that because we're going into the England game, which is a little bit different. But I'll hold it there. I'll come back to that in a little bit, if that's okay.
Have a question here, Jason.
Yeah.
11 games in season last year. How many times did you change the systems for opponents, if any?
Sean, do you want to answer it?
We keep it the same all the time. We've got our principles and we stick to them. And I think that I ask myself, if we continue the message we give to the players, what confidence does that give to the players when they go onto the pitch? So, you know, I think we played Spain and we played Holland, and we know that more than likely they're going to have more possession of the ball, but we were still aggressive in the way that we were pressed. And it's a collective idea, you know, when the players come in, and I think it's something that we'll go on to shortly. You know, we're all in this together. They come up with the ideas. We kind of push them to the way that we would like to play. But when the players go out onto the field, they have to be happy with the game plan. Otherwise, it will break down. It's okay for us to want us to go and press high, but if the players are not comfortable doing it, then there's a problem somewhere. But with this age group that we had, we asked them, I think in one of the games, wasn't it, Jason, how would you like to play?
Oh, it was this one. It was we played Poland in 2 games. So the first game we pressed them, we won the game 2-0. Everything went really well. It could have been more. We played quite well on the day. We were very happy. I think it could have been 2-1. The second game, then we've a squad of 18. So we made 7 changes. So everyone gets to play. If I was going out to guarantee wins, I'll start with me best team all the time. But that'll get older when the people develop, the kids develop. So it's so important that we give them enough playing time to go and see, are they developing? Is the training that we're doing developing our players? Because if it's not the players' fault, it's our fault as coaches. If they're not developing, we've got to look at the way we're teaching. So it's so important. So in the second game, then what we said is we made a decision. We said we'll drop off to a mid-block. And we'd say, listen, for their education, we know how to press high because we've done it quite well. Let's drop off and see, you know, if we were down to 10 men or we were hitting it, you know, going to try to hit team in the counter-attack, can we drop off? Anyway, we went in at half-time 1-0 down. And the first question I asked the players, what's wrong? And as Sean said, they said, we're not happy. We want to go on a front foot. We don't want to sit back. We want to go. So we said, well, we've been in for 6 days in a row now. It's your first time you've ever been in for six days. High intensity training and games. You've a second half to go. Have you got the energy? And they said, yes, trust us. Well, anyway, we went out. We won the game 2-1. They won the ball back in the opposition's half nearly every time, and we dominate possession. So that really, the players told us this is the way we want to play. So it was up to us as coaches to listen. Yeah, listen. So we talked about the 6 pillars. I'm just conscious of time. We talked about the 6 pillars. So the first one obviously is the playing principles, our philosophy. The second one is, you know, when you're in your academy structure and you're doing your assessment days are coming up soon. I'd say, Mike, this is around this time now. Would it be selecting all your players, selecting your squad?
Yes, absolutely. It's a bit changed because of the COVID-19 situation, but yes.
So I put this in. So what we're looking for when we do it, the game is always going to be the game. And some questions you might ask yourself. We look and we recruit players of a profile. So what do we want from a centre back in the 4 functions of the game? So this slide here is when we're attacking or transition to defending transition. So the game all the time is going in circles. You're going to either have the ball or you just lost it, or you're defending and you just win it. So we try to look at we design the player profile for each position. We don't go tactical, physical, mental, social, lifestyle. We don't go that way. What we look for is decisions the kids make in each one of their actions on the pitch. So I've an example of this. These are our indicators. The decisions, how they communicate with the players on the pitch. Are they taking up the right positions in terms of where the ball is, in terms of where the opposition are? What decision are they making when they receive the ball? And are they good enough then to execute the pass, the dribble, the run, defensive tackle, defensive header, wherever it's going to be? So it's so important. And the indicators we use here is down the bottom, the standout skills. Kevin Zeffy, you might want to elaborate a little bit more on these down the bottom if you like, Sean.
Yeah, I just think that obviously we had a left forward, outstanding talent. And I think that sometimes you just have to nurture it and just allow him and to be free because of his ability in 1v1. And I think that if we look at world football now, the greatest players on the planet are the players who can beat the opponent in a 1v1 situation because it excites the crowd. They can score goals. And this is the kind of player that I think that we had this season. And so, you know, it's to make sure that we keep them humble and try and give them the information that they need. But certainly a player like him, sometimes you just have to go and let him loose, really.
Character was an interesting one because I'll give you just a little story. We were playing England in St. George's Park. And when we arrived in St. George's Park, which is the base for the English FA, they told us we're playing on the first team's pitch. And straight away, the kids were so nervous. If you get to George's Park, it's a fantastic facility. The dressing rooms have all the ex-players' memorabilia up. The dressing rooms are called after ex-players. So I think we were in the Gascoigne room, Sean. Wasn't it Gascoigne room?
Oh, yeah.
I think so. So the players got really, really nervous. We talked about character. So we sent him out to do the warm-up. But I could take Kevin, who Sean was talking about there, and another lad says, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "No, nothing." But they were two real, very young, confident football players who had ability and believed in their ability. So we got those two then to whack with the rest to calm the nerves down. And it worked at 3. And then at half time, we played so well at half time. When we came into the dressing room, Caden and Kevin had the tactic board up on the wall, and all the kids were around it, and they were already discussing tactically what was going on in the first half before the coaches even got into the dressing room, which was fantastic from our point of view to see. And that really showed us they have the character to take on information. Obviously, the next one is to handle the pressure and also be leaders on the pitch. Psychologically, it's great traits to have to be a football player. Sean, do you want to talk about potential? This is an interesting one because if I asked how many coaches here to write down what does potential mean, we'll probably get loads of different answers. So there's no crystal ball in this. Look at Sean. Sean had a great career. Sean, what time did you actually develop and get into our already senior national team?
21.
21 years of age. He wasn't 14, 15 or 16. 21 years of age when he made his debut for his country. You know, so I would urge all your coaches to really zone in when you're doing your recruitment, have a look further down the line what players can be in your first team in the league in San Fran Glens in the first team in 5 years' time. Don't be narrow-minded and look and think, oh, he's small now or he's not powerful now. Do your due diligence, find out information, and then make a decision then going forward. And that's how we would do our player ID, which I find is so important. Also, make sure that you're not signing 5 or 6 players for one position, because you need to make sure they have time on the pitch, because you can only see and can only help the players develop when they're on the training pitch, training pitch, but when they're actually in the test of the game. It's so important. And if you've got 4 or 5 players for one position, you're not going to do that player any good. And if anything, you might hinder his development because he's not going to get enough playing time. So just be careful. Square pegs don't fit round holes also. It's an important one to think about. There's an example of what we would do. So if we look at an example of a right back, this is, if you look at the top left, it's a team function. We're attacking, but also with transition to defend in mind. We're building up to score goals in our own half of the pitch, and this is in the opponent's half. And what we want them to be able to do, so we 4 right backs come into us and we can only select 2. We will basically rate them on how good are they in build-up. Can they receive the ball on the half turn under pressure? Short passing. Can they dribble because they're fullbacks? So, for example, against Poland, the fullbacks are free players. So can they exploit that space? Can they receive from the goalkeeper? As you see Luke taking the ball down, turning, and then laying the ball off to the 6. So these would all be what we call key actions within our game plan that we want the players to do. So the players that we have in, so if we 4 right backs, The best 2 right backs who actually do this, who we rate over the period of assessment days, are the 2 that we select. Any questions there, Mike, coming in? Are all good?
We have some questions, but not pertaining this. So
No,
we'll wait.
go away. Break her up a little bit. It'd be great.
Okay. So I'm getting a lot of text messages here for questions. How involved are you with the players' clubs and academies?
Great question. Very involved. So after every assessment day we have, when we select a squad, it has to go through the clubs and the director of coaching. And then everybody's allowed to come back to me, as in coaches, director of coaching in their clubs, for feedback, or directly coaches for feedback, but not parents. Because the coaches are the one who will implement the feedback that we give them in the training environment, and the director of coaching are the ones who should make sure that their elite players, using elite loosely at such a young age, are getting the appropriate training methods done. And then after each camp, I would phone each director of coaching in each club academy directly and give feedback on every one of the players holistically, not just the performers on the pitch, about how they were sleeping overnight in hotels, their eating habits, their interaction, their social skills. So we would debate that with every academy manager.
Interesting. And Jason, is there ever a time where you see a player might be able to develop better at a different academy, and is that something that you speak to the directors about, or no?
Not necessarily. I'll only talk to the players' club at that moment in time. But in Ireland, it's interesting because we've got what we call, you've got recreational and select over there. Would that be right?
Yep,
We would have
absolutely.
like grassroots into National League.
Yep.
So it's changing in Ireland, and some of the kids now are playing in grassroots. But what we're realizing is, we played Spain recently, who had 9 kids, I think. Was it 9 kids from Barcelona, Sean? And we played Holland, who had 7 from Ajax. So when our kids were training twice a week in grassroots, I was talking to the Ajax kids who were in 6 times a week. So I could make that reference to the kids and say, listen, this is what you've got to try to get up to if you want to progress at a faster rate. Sean, what's it like in the sort of like in Leicester City's academy? Sean works in Leicester City's professional academy. What's it like over there in terms of training and communication with the international managers and so forth?
Yeah, it would be very similar to obviously what you explained, but I think obviously the big difference is sometimes how many times a week that the players train, and in terms of the strength and conditioning. So like the communication obviously with the international managers, I think it's just a case of being open and sharing ideas. And at the end of the day, I think that whether we're in the academy or with the international setup, we're both trying to help each other and help the player to develop, because if he's good for Leicester City, then hopefully he can go on and become a full Irish international. So I think it benefits both parties. You know, let's work hard. Let's try and make the player as best as possible.
It's so important to educate the players that, you know, they've got to be accountable. Autonomy is the key when you're dealing with players. They're only going to be training with you probably about 5 hours a week and play a game if they're lucky. But what else? What are they doing for the rest of the time?
Right.
Especially with you know, at our age, the body is growing. They're going through puberty. They're starting to realize girlfriends. They're starting to eating habits. You know, you've got to just keep them in the frame of mind that, listen, you've got to take responsibility yourself. And you're going to see that now. They be sort of like a KPI as we would break everything on. So that lad is Evan Ferguson, centre forward, played for us, and he made his debut for the first team. Just signed a contract with Brighton, I think, isn't it, Sean?
Yeah, I believe so.
He signed his first professional contract with Brighton. Played already for his club, Bohemians, the senior team against Chelsea in pre-season. 15 years of age.
So, Jason, scouting in Ireland, how involved are you and Sean specifically in the scouting of this age group? And another question to follow that up is, are dual nationals considered?
The answer to both, yeah. Well, the first part is we're involved because we actually look after everything from start to finish. So we have everything in place. We meet, we watch the games. We call in the kids that we want to see. We scout who we think have potential, who are ready. I select the squad, like it falls on my head if it goes right or wrong, but we do it as a group, as a team. All the staff we always sit in a round table, as Sean would say. Yeah, always a round table. No one's at the head of the table. We're always there, always dialogue. We have disagreements. We played Spain recently. I disagreed with Sean. Sean wanted one way, I went with the other. I'm the manager, I won. But when we went out, Sean won because I should have went with his way. But that's great about it. Now, we take full responsibility for everything to guarantee transparency. And we do all the scout and all the selection. It all falls on our heads, no one else. And the second part is absolutely, if a kid is Irish, but lives in America or US, around Europe, if he's Irish, he's Irish. That's the way we look at it. His grandparents or his parents must have been born in Ireland. And then we go from there. It's only up to second generation. But that's the way it is. Sean has a little smile. What are you laughing at?
Just because I was on was, and I obviously, when I was growing up and I was 14, 15, I always knew that I wanted to play for Ireland. My grandfather and my grandma was from Ireland, but I didn't get picked from the ages of 14. I went to a training camp when I was under 21, and I still didn't get picked. But then it's to have that self-belief, the confidence to keep working hard. And eventually I was rewarded, and then ended up with 37 caps. So, I think it's something that we've touched on earlier on in the presentation, is to keep believing, be confident, and continue to work hard.
Okay, yeah. Listen, again, this to me is our most important slide. The staff and everybody, we all have to understand when we're in camp. So, for example, when they're in training with you guys in your club, everyone should be looking for the same goal, going the same direction, and all using the same methods. No inconsistencies are allowed to be there. Everything has to be the same. And what we try to do, we make sure we put in a culture of high performance, which I'll break down. Even though we're looking at individual development, it's still important that as a team, they learn to work together. Deal with knockbacks. Injuries, long-term injuries, not getting selected, playing time, not getting enough playing time. And then obviously the approach that we take and everyone takes, it's got to be player-centered. I'll just open that up so much. And this is what we mean by this: autonomy in high-performance culture. Accountability is so important. Kids' attitude. We give them full ownership. You'll see in a second of the video. When we talk about team building, problem solving, encourage each other on the pitch, off the pitch. But we do understand that there's times where they're going to have a go with each other as well. But it's how they do it. It's so important that they don't go out there and start, just really loud, aggressive voice and be that sort of bullyish attitude. But they should be able to go to a player and make him a little bit more accountable in terms of his performance, but be able to bounce off each other throughout the game. Leaders lead by example. Another important trait to have in football or out of football. Take responsibility, obviously, of their life. Learn from setbacks, resilience. Look at Sean. Sean, you might take in resilience. You have a couple of hard situations in your career over the last few years.
Yeah, obviously I had to retire when I was playing in the MLS in my second season at Colorado. I had knee surgery at the start of the season, thinking that I would be fine within a month or so. I returned to training. My knee was still swelling up after the surgery. Went back to see the surgeon, and he was like, "There's not really too much more we can do. You kind of have to get on with it." So I went back to train, anti-inflammatories, iced my knee continually. I think I didn't play that season in America. Then I returned to England, went and got more rehab in Germany, and I was able to return, but not to the level that I'd played throughout my career. And eventually I had to retire through my knee injury. So I was kind of lucky because I was 31 at the time, and I'd obviously had 10 to 12 year period of a good career, I think. So I was lucky, but at the same time, I didn't expect it. And Jason was my tutor when I started my coaching education, and I wasn't really ready for it. I didn't know to go from a player to then on the opposite side. It was a really difficult transition. So yeah, I think sometimes, you know, injuries, being a footballer, are just part of the career.
I think the words for resilience we're saying there is never giving up. He fought hard to get back. He got back on the pitch, got another year out of it. His attitude had to be spot on to manage his body right. You know, eat right when you're injured. Make sure that you're working on other parts that you can. And then the other one, obviously, player-centered approach is that we don't want a monologue when we're in camp with our players. It's always a dialogue. Never a monologue. I'm never telling. Sean's never telling. We're always asking. Always asking. Another little giggle, Sean?
Nope.
Yeah, you might give an example of your first training session when we had the media in down in Johnstown House.
Well, when I played, then I was awful.
No, the one where I walked off the pitch and left you on the pitch is just go on. You can take over from now.
I try not to remember. So I was just at the start of my coaching education, and obviously going to play in front of 50,000 was no problem. But then Mason and the stopwatch, and when you're taking the session, I looked at him, what? And I've never been so nervous in front of 10, 14-year-olds, and you know, you obviously start getting a dry mouth and stuff. And then we obviously did the session on building up from the back. But again, you know, you kind of grow and you learn from that experience and almost gain that little bit of confidence from it.
Yeah, absolutely. The key is all the time, engage the players. So guys, to coaches who are there, engage your players every time. Ask the 5 W questions. The what, the which, the when, the who, and the where. The what, the which, the when, the who, and the where. Don't ask questions, did that go well? Because they'll give you an answer, yes. What went well in there, and then all of a sudden then they're coming out of their shell, they're starting to talk to you, you can have that dialogue. The what, the when, the which, the who, and the where. 5 most important questions in football. So we make sure when it comes in, this is our high performance identity. That's what we'd like to call it. It's clear. All the staff from the doctor to the physio, the 11 staff members all know. If I was in a club, if I go in and take over a club, I will make sure that this is at the top table for everyone and it filters right down. There has to be a goal in what we're trying to reach. So that's what we would do there. The kids come up with this themselves. We engage the kids in questions. This is what they come up with. No excuse culture, no Charlies, no one's bigger than the team. That's where Charlie means. It's not accepted. Irish DNA, as people would know, we never give up. So we look at on the left, as I'm looking here, we're committed to learning and coachable. That'll be for the players, but then their behaviours have to be teamwork, lead by example, positive attitudes all the time. So something that someone might take out of this that might help their team going forward. Is that okay, Mike?
Fantastic.
Any questions, Mike?
Yep. A few more. This one's about periodization, the work to rest ratios. How does a week on the road look?
Yeah, great. Another great question. Okay, so basically, I'll take an event. When we meet up for an event with 3 games, so say it's a 4-team tournament. So we had a UEFA development tournament recently. So we will come in what we call match day -3, match day -2, match day -1, and then match day. So your body takes 72 hours to fully recover once you eat, you sleep, and you hydrate it. A physical exercise which is over 8 on the RPE scale. Okay, the rate of perceived exertion. Okay, so when we go match day -3, it's at least 72 hours away. So we would then work in a training session of 80 minutes, which is the duration of our game, which includes a warm-up, finishes then with a cool down. And then in the middle of that training session, we would do different games, whether we're working on attacking principles or defending principles. So the first match day -3 is RPE scale of anything from 7 to 8, 72 hours before the game. So we would train for that duration. Then match day -2, we would bring that down to less than 60 minutes and an RPE scale of 5 to 6, but mainly in and around 5. So duration is down. You never tell your players not training at 100% because the way they play should be the way they train. So the way to keep their body fresh is to reduce the timings, not reduce the quality of training. So the concept of periodization is keep the intensity of the actions high, but reduce the volume of training in terms of duration. So, and then match day -2 is 60 minutes max. Match day -1 is 40 minutes, RPE scale at 3. That's it. So then we go into the game then. So I'll rewind back to match day -3. So the way we do it, and this is good because we're on training methods now, as you can see, is a reality-based approach. So we would have looked at our last game or looked at the opposition like Poland or England. We'll go into England now in a second. And we would analyze the game and see where our principles fit. And our sessions then is divided. So match day -3 could be our attacking principles. Match day -2 would be defensively our game plan. But what's interesting is match day -1, we send the players out 11v11. So we even pick the team sometimes. And we set up the opposition as how Poland were going to play 1-3-5-2. And now we get our players without any interjection from us to apply our last 2 days of training. And we record it. So later on in the evening then, if we can see that things are not ready, which is the day before the game, we can sit down in individual meetings and go through the training on the video and just to tidy 1 or 2 things up. So, and then we go into obviously play the game, recovery the next day. For the players who didn't play over 45 minutes, over a half day, they would do a small bit of activation work because it's so important that you keep the body fired up. And then they would all play in game 2 and we repeat the sequence going forward.
How long would that activation work be for those players that didn't get?
We would do, Sean normally takes it. So Sean, the day after the game, we normally take the players who played less than 40 minutes. Sean, you and Will normally take that, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's also important that the activation with the bands would roughly be about 10 minutes, I think. But then what we try to do in the warm-ups is try to make use of the time. So not necessarily just running around a field. We might do some balance or some coordination work, or at least have the ball involved. Because when the players, they go into a game, let's try and make it real, make it a game situation. So in the warm-ups, we try to use the balls, and then we'll go into possibly a little small possession, maybe a 4v4 plus 3, where Jason touched on before, where it's got we have transitions in there, we have reactions, we have obviously the players creating angles, and obviously because we play a 4-3-3 formation, that suits. And then we'll go into a little game with the players, because at the same time, we need to make it fun, because when they're away for such a long period, there's only so much tactical information I think that the players can take on at 14 years of age. And so we try to give a little bit of fun and tactical information.
Yeah, so this is our training methods here. So we play games. So we play Spain, England, Holland. We might only have three training sessions leading into it, maybe 2. So it's important that you are very consistent, very clear with the message that you want to give to the players, so they understand on the pitch. So important that when they go on the pitch, they know. It's great you know, me know, and Sean know, but the players need to know when they're on the pitch. So how we do that, a little video. Are we okay for time, Mike?
Yeah, I've actually got one more question for you, Jason.
Yeah, go for it.
When you are doing the match day -1, match day -2, and you're minimizing the amount of time as you get closer to the match, even though these players aren't maybe exerting that much energy, would you still keep them to go over tactical stuff, or is that 40 minutes of high intensity and then we're done, or is it 40 minutes of intensity and then we don't take the tactical aspect into the periodization?
No. Duration would be the duration of the full training session. Okay. The key for us is to keep the players fresh. We're not going to be working on their fitness, right, because they're only in for a short period of time. Yes, the byproduct of training will be they will get fitter, sharper, and stronger because we have the best players together. So byproduct of that is obviously getting fitter. But it's important for us that when it gets in the last 15 and 20 minutes of games, although we do have substitutions to make, or subs to make, that they can maintain the actions that we expect from them. That's the key. It's maintain the good actions. So in the first half, it's high intensity, everything's good. But now we need them to maintain that for 80 minutes. And it could be many actions. And when I say an action for the coaches, it could be a pass, a dribble, a header, a tackle. It could be even a sprint, a recovery run. So it's important that they maintain the quality of the actions.
Got it.
So the duration is always either the 80, the 60, or the 45. Now, could be time after that when Sean might take one or two of the players out onto the pitch and walk through a particular scenario that we didn't do too well in training. But that'd be more training the mind in terms of that decision that has to be made in that instance rather than physically. So basically, reality-based approach. The game, we always take our session from our last game we played and how we apply our game plan. So when we look at the methods that they do, we would get the players themselves to do it, as you'll see here. Little video. Hopefully it'll take just music in 3 minutes. So basically, this was a video that one of our analysts done in preparation for a double header against Cyprus. Is that okay? 3 minutes. What I would like for your coaches to do is have a look at it and write down, do they see our playing principles? Write down, do they see our operation principles about the team building togetherness, our style of play and our 3/3? Write down that and they see and come up with a question or two for me. I have me tutor hat on now, Mike, as you noticed. Huh? Have a look and see what you think. And we do this with all our players. These are 14 years of age.
All my life, I feel it in my veins, feel it in my blood. You know I can't stop till I'm good and done. I'm gonna push it harder, gonna climb up higher. It's like I just can't miss. I was made for this. So now I'm stronger. Prove it to my fighter. Can't help but win. I was made for this. I was made for this. I was made for this. You're gonna find out. You can't hold me down. See, I'm the king, 'cause I got that crown. Oh, you could try your best to step in my ring, but I'll just knock you dead like it wasn't a thing. I'm gonna push it harder, gonna climb up higher. It's like I just can't miss. I was made for this. So now I'm stronger. Prove it to my fighter. I can't help but win. I was made for this. I was made for this. I can't help but win, yeah. Just try and stop me. I'm gonna push it harder, gonna climb up higher. I just can't miss. I was made for this. So now I'm stronger. was made for this.
So a little video just to see, there's our training methods, what we do, how it's done. 14-year-old kids, some of them are 13. Again, you know, you might have one or two are 13. Again, they finished, it could be 15, but majority are 14. And there was a great question asked earlier about getting them to be talking to each other, not so quiet. Give them little challenges. Don't be shy. Give them little challenges. They done it no problem. They were presenting tactics. We have quizzes with them. Might be a quiz like we're 1-4-3, we're 1-4-3-3, and we're playing against local opposition who play a 1-4-4-2 diamond. So off you go in your groups, come up with a game plan, and they'll come up with the answers. Trust them. And what we would say just down the bottom there is motivate your players while you're coaching. Don't always be too hard on them. Let them make mistakes. And it'd be great if you can get one of the parents at times to record your training session, especially when you go into your scrimmages, because it's always a good reference point when you go back to self-reflection, which is one of our principles. We'll move on to in a second.
I've got two questions here for you guys from that. One is,
Sean, you take this one.
Yeah, Sean, how much input do players have in developing the tactics? I'm assuming because they saw that all the different tacky boards that were out and everything.
Yeah, I think we discussed this at the start, didn't we? It's like a joint idea.
Right.
You know, we have our principles from the very start, and so I think that it comes together. It's like a cohesion, and there's so much information out there now on social media. You see the players. They're looking on Instagram, Twitter. There's so much out there now. And we try to put a plan together to try and win football games and also develop the players.
It's always that dialogue. It's never a monologue. It's always a dialogue. They need to understand. Sean would know better than me after playing in front of 50,000 people. But a coach's job is done when the players are on that pitch to a certain extent. And when you get older, they're playing in front of 50,000 people. Do you think Sean can understand or be able to hear his coaches from the dugout? No chance. If he's in there on his own with his teammates, if they can't make the right decision at the right time, it goes back to your training methods.
Right. The other one is definitely from a Yank. They asked, "Who's Charlie?"
Yeah. So Charlie is someone here that thinks they're bigger than the team. So it's their slang word for nobody is bigger than the team. If you come into a dressing room or environment and you go around and won't clean up after yourself, or giving out to people or moaning a lot and thinking you're better than everyone else, well, it'll be your last time in the dressing room. It'll be your first time and your last time. There's nobody bigger than the team. So a Charlie is a slang word for someone who's very big-headed.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we would do. What I'll do is I'll bring you into the last one. So this is us, a last video. Now, this is our training in a nutshell. I've put a few graphics in, a couple of minutes, couple of clips. Have a look. This is the tip off against England. So what I do is I'll ask the coaches, what are they noticing first? So I'll give it 20 seconds. Hopefully they're still awake. We haven't put them to sleep yet, Mike. What can they notice first? Mike, you're on your A license, Mike. Come on, what can you notice, Mike? No pressure.
The way the teams are lining up.
Yeah, what you notice about Ireland on one side?
They're overloading that far side of the pitch.
Yeah. So what we do, the kids were nervous, as we said. So this is tip off. We'll put that correct mark on your A license when you're over next year, Pop. But this is it. Game on. Just teeing off. Don't forget I said about the kids being so nervous, and we settle down after about 30 seconds. So we've overloaded where we've got 5 over there against their 2, possibly 3. pick it up and play from here. So have a look at James. He's a pivot player. Remember we were talking about checking his run clear angles? Just for the coaches who were watching. Now have a look, centre back. We were saying, should he step in, but he played a pass. Midfielders playing away from the ball. Obviously our quick combinations. Now, the reason I've stopped that there is, so when we're doing attacking philosophy like this webinar, it's so important that you stay organized, especially at the higher level in terms of transition or to defend against a counter attack. It's so difficult because when you play against the better players, 5-6 seconds later, 2 or 3 passes, the ball's in the back of your net. So I would have used this clip just to show, as you see the left centre back, just to get a little bit tighter. Because I need him to stay involved in the play. He's doing nothing for the team in his position where he is, but if he comes over 15, 20 yards, at least he'd be closer to their centre forward in terms of if they try to break, in terms of defending if they try to break. So it's always a little nugget of information that will help, especially that player. Quick combination. Now, because our 10 now runs, remember we talked about penetrate from midfield to the back line? Because our 10 now, which we call our attacking midfielder, because he's broke the midfield line, he's attracted their fullback, who I've circled. So because he's attracted their fullback, our main key player is free. Poor pass, by the way, poor pass. But we know Kevin has the ability and we finish a 1-all 15 passes later. Again, look at James again, playing away from the ball. So these are exactly what I'm saying about what we coach. Tight areas, looking for triangles. We're out the other side. Have a look. Because we're playing away from the ball, we have a 3v2. Doesn't make the right decision at the time. And we would show the kids this analysis. We're stopping it here. Now, there's the right up. You know, this is the decision we said to Adam here. Adam, because they're all facing their own. Sean, as a centre back, last thing you want is facing your own goal like that. Would that be correct?
Yeah, in that position, yeah, there's just a high probability that you end up scoring in your own net.
Yeah, and what we always want 3 in the box. And then we have our midfielders, 1 supporting behind and 1 defensive support, as you've seen in clip against Poland. And what we're saying here, if we get 5 in the box, that means they might put 5 in the box and all the space in the box then is crowded. So we think 3 is the right number. So they don't have everyone in the box, so they don't crowd out all the spaces that we can exploit. So we're saying to Adam here, that's the pass. And we're running in the box for that one. But what does Adam do? So his decision, he takes a touch, and now all of a sudden they get themselves in a position to intercept. So we would have showed Adam this. Then we're looking at our combination. So the pivot, this is our centre back, our pivot. Now there's a small triangle becomes a bigger triangle now. So that's what we call our clear lines of support. So our pivot all the time. Look at his movement. Now another triangle. The key about this is he takes on his back foot. Now you're looking at the movement on the outside where the overload is created. Now we have a 2v1 on the outside. Winger comes inside. And then when you look up there, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5v4 in the final third. Again, one side of the pitch to the other. I know I'm doing a lot of coaching, but it's just to get the message across.
This is brilliant.
Then we're there. So what now? Watch the position of James. There's a pivot. Breaking lines with passes. Nearly out. Now, this is important. So when we talk about having that attacking philosophy or developing an attacking style of play in which he asks us to do, Sean would work a lot on counter pressing with the team. So we've just lost the ball. So the key here now is make the opposition panic. So watch the reaction of the 3 players and watch what happens. And this, hopefully you'll see it throughout the last couple of clips. So we lose possession. The play from now. Look how many's around the ball. There's a 3v1 around the ball. And then even when we lose and we win it back, now they're forced to play that longer pass because of the tight areas. There's the triangle, defensive transition. The 6th job now, pick up pieces, get us playing again, dominate possession. Again, look at the triangles again. Are we always in that position where the passing line is clear? Another triangle, and that's what we're trying to achieve all the time. And then we break lines again. There's that little penetrating. Now, I stopped it here because it's the same time as the goal. It's the same instance as the goal. Our number 10 broke the line. That's our 10. Kevin's on the outset. We scored very similar to that. And what he does wrong here, the line is where I want that pass. I want the pass in front of him. Kevin comes onto it. But what happens again? The same as the goal. The lack of quality in the pass. Kevin has to check. And it doesn't break a line. Fullback gets over and Kevin comes inside. But the little bits of detail so important. Using our overloads. Our goalkeeper. James, look at James' position. What's he doing? He's not looking at the play. He's checking his shoulders. He's looking for space. And see his movement there? I'll rewind it for the coaches. Have a look at him. He's looking. He's seeing where he goes. He wants to know what's next. And now his movement is away from the ball. Away, away, away. We're out the opposite side. Gets caught a little bit. We still recycle. Still create our overload. Now have a look at this picture here. We've got bodies in those positions behind our midfield line. Now can they look at Kevin's movement? So as we play, just watch here for a second. It's important for the coaches to see this. Now, right, he's in a position here, but he can't receive the ball. So he hasn't created a clear passing line as this lad is in his way. So watch his movement and also what happens on the outside because he's actually off the shoulder. So watch the movement. So he has to get in a better position to receive. Now he receives and look. Where does he receive? On his back foot, facing the back line. Now, I think he should play Joe here. Personally, I think it's a smaller pass and that puts them backwards, where he tries the bigger pass. Quick combinations as we talk about. Now, this is from a team that were really nervous. Again, have a look at, he's receiving the ball on his back foot, returning away. And these all happen, these quick games that we would do in training. Turn away from the opposition. So if I rewind that one again for your coaches, just let it go a little bit. It's the key. So when you do your small practices, coaches, you know, you can plant your seeds of how you receive the ball. Kevin is receiving on his back foot. The opposition is that way. So he's opening his body and he's receiving it away. And now all of a sudden, he's turning out and he's broke a line with 3 bodies. So they're the little ones. This is the level of detail in your little rondos that you do. How they receive, checking their shoulders, playing in spaces. Little pass down the side. Number 10 now before is there. Remember we talked about we need penetration in the final third. So have a look. Now there's our triangles again, tight areas. Stay calm under pressure. We're overloaded here. Have a look at his movement to play away from the ball. Clear passing line. Now a second play and we're in behind. And everything we do here, we train with. What do you notice with this clip? Look at the winger. It's a disaster for defender, Sean. You might take this one in, Sean. Look at the spaces it leaves in here to be exploited. Runners running in behind. Sean, take it on the last 2 or 3 clips. Maintain the width.
Yeah, I think it's important that if obviously you've seen in the first half that we've been able to play through the lines, through the centre of the pitch. If you can't play through the centre of the pitch, can you play around the sides? And if they're blocking off both of them areas, I think the one then is, can you go over? I think if we're just seeing here, you know, we're obviously keeping possession. We're winning here. We're almost enticing England out of their comfort zone, out of their positions. Again, small triangles, all the players. I think one of the big two key words, terminology we always use is calm, composure, be nice and calm under pressure. And I think the boys show this in abundance, really. You know, you can see the midfielder moving away from the ball into space. And I think what's really important about his positioning here, his first thought is not to receive the first pass, but can he receive the second pass? If we just play it on. Again, in between the lines. And for me, obviously, that's England blocking off central areas, being compact. So what do you do if the team's been nice and compact? Can you play over? Again, we can see the pivot triangles. Good. Clear passing lines. Can we go from the strong side to the weak side? Again, we spoke about England being nice and compact after the first half. Now, where's all the space? And I think this is something that we didn't teach the players, but this was something that they found solutions for. And for the topics and the subjects that we spoke about previously, and giving them ownership in the little group with the tactics boards, making their own rules, giving their own values. Because sometimes I think when you're playing on the pitch, you can prepare so much. Poland are going to come and play 1-3-5-2, but then sometimes a team might come and play something that you've not practiced. But if we go back to our principles, okay, what do we need to do if they come and play a different system? We still need to overload and build the attack phase. And so in that instance there with the players, they've recognised that it's difficult to play through. Okay, so what do? We play long, we play over. And, you know, sometimes that one pass is the best pass. I think that Pep Guardiola does it best, doesn't he? Where the goalkeeper goes straight from him to Aguero. And if that could happen all the time, he would do it continually. But it's just not the case. So then that's why they build and they go and play. But yes, sometimes the players have to find solutions for themselves on the pitch. We can give them the information, but sometimes things happen on the pitch that we can't prepare for. And I think that's, again, where we give them the ownership works really well.
Yeah, it's so important. And that was, again, another game that we played. Listen, I know I can't do this all on my own. So I was lucky enough to get the international job in 2016. I was asked then by he's still technical director now, come with a plan. So I went with a plan and my staff. I recruit my staff. And it's important with my staff, first of all, they were passionate about what we do, because I would like the coaches to see that we love our job. Every day we go to work, we have a smile on our face because we have a fantastic job to make a difference. We're on a football field. We're helping young kids become better. We're helping young kids to be better people. You know, we have a great job. We get to travel the world. We do a lot of gigs. Like I was in America 3 times last year. I was in Chicago, Dallas, Washington, all doing seminars. So we do these presentations. Me and Sean go over. We went to 2 in the UK and we done 3 in America last year. So we come over and then we bring all this onto the pitch for all the coaches to come and see. So we've got a great job. The key about them is here, when I pick my staff, is the personality. Because of the age group we're dealing with, you know, when you're dealing with 13, 14, 15-year-olds, you get a few of those silly questions. You know, you need to be able to understand, you know, the mindset of the kids at that time. What they bring to the table, the value they bring to the table. Sean's a professional experience of being a full-time professional footballer from 16 years of age. Also managing in the non-league over in the UK, which is a really high level. Playing abroad brings all that to the table. And then obviously I'm working with him and my other assistant on the coach education. So I know what makes them work and they know what I want. So that continuity and consistency between us, that professionalism. And then obviously they have to be able to perform where I want them to perform. And that's everything that you see. Now you asked me here, can you do a presentation on building an attack in philosophy or building attacking game plan. But basically, this all comes in it. When you're in that club environment, it's so broad. You need to get all this right at the start. And then when you get this right, the likes of England games and the Poland games and how we play happens because everybody's involved. So this is another part of the principle. And the last principle is this. And I want to end, well, I'm not want to end, I'll do questions, but this is so important to understand, guys, as coaches. Everything that we do is player-led. We never go in a half-time, before a game, after a game, training session, and moan and give out. We always go in and ask the players, the first question when we go in the dressing room at half-time is, okay, tell us what's going on the pitch there in terms of when we have the ball. Okay, and then we go that way, and we have a dialogue. And actually, I should just rewind back a little bit. Before they go out to play, the last question I always ask me, the coaches will be talking to players individually. The last question I ask is, everyone clear of what's expected of them as they're walking out? Because if someone says to me, no, at least we've got another minute or two to make sure that we can get some clarity in terms of what we want them to do. That's always it. And we ask questions. So we might have the two centre backs looking at a clip together, and we'll ask them player to player reflection. Says, what you noticing here, guys? And they will then talk about maybe stepping in, maybe defending, maybe if one centre back covers, the other freedom for the other centre back to step in, create an overload in midfield, which is our attacking principle. Self-reflection. We give them a booklet. Sean, do you want to talk about the booklet?
Yeah, so at the start of each camp, the players receive a booklet. Now it's for them to look after. And each morning we receive the booklet back. So in the booklet, we'll have an itinerary of the day for all the players, what time they're training, physio, afternoon activities, dinner, performance meetings. Then there'll be specific information in there. How did you sleep? How did training go? And obviously we go back to the match day -3, match day -2, match day -1. And once we come to the match day -1, by this point, we've hopefully gained the game plan. Now we look for the players to put this information in the booklet. So then on the morning of the game, they come down, have their breakfast, they hand us the booklets, and then we read through the information that they've put down. So then we know, are they clear on the game plan and can they execute the game plan? So for us, this is a really good sign to see if they've understood. Now, like any 14-year-old, you get some players write loads and loads, and then you get some that might write only a couple of words, okay? And the ones that write a couple of words might not necessarily mean that they don't understand the game plan. It might be an educational point of view where they are not very good at writing, but I think this is where it's important that you have a relationship with the player, and you can kind of gain a trust and to be able to speak, and they can speak freely, and that you understand each other, because like we've said, we're all aiming for the same goal.
Yeah, the key about this for coaches, the key about this is kids are not mini adults. They're learning, they're growing up. They do things wrong. That's part of the process. It's how we engage with them is going to determine, do they actually listen and learn from it? One thing that Sean was talking about in the booklet there, you could do a VARK, V-A-R-K questionnaire. So just Google that for all your coaches, VARK, V-A-R-K questionnaire, and ask your players to fill her out. And then you'll find out who learns visually, who learns by writing but more, who learns by listening more, and who learns by doing more. VARC, V-A-R-C. It's very important, and it's good for us to make sure that we do that with our kids, because obviously we've 18 different personalities. Obviously then, killing, as I said, we could be in for 8 days, 10% of that is on the pitch. Obviously, they're sleeping at night. If you 10-hour days, you're only on the pitch for 2 hours. You might have a unit meeting. So some of the clips we showed you there, we might call in the back line and say, right, have a look at this. This is how you defend it, or this is how you play it. How can we improve it and make it better? So bring all the defenders and the hold it and the pivot player together. And then obviously the coach's reflection is where we'll give them one-to-one, you know, after each game, we'll have a one-to-one chat with them. And we'll talk. Sometimes we won't even talk about football. Sometimes we'll just talk about how they felt going on the pitch. You know, they do enough football. Sometimes it might be just, you know, you look very nervous. Is everything okay? And then just try to relax them for the next game. So that's how we would measure our performance. As you probably see there, it's not about results. Listen, we want to win every game. That's our objective, because the aim of the game is to win. You never send the kids onto the pitch and say, listen, you're not here to win. But the thing is, if we have a squad of 18, we would pick the team probably the day before and say 11 are going to play in game on match day minus match day. And then the second game, everyone else is going to get an opportunity to start. And then whoever performs well, recovers well, whoever's fittest will play in game 3. So everyone gets an opportunity to express. Sean, would you like to add that on just before I conclude?
No, not really. Just maybe you spoke about the unit meetings, and I think that sometimes the smaller groups can be more beneficial because, like you say, each player is different in terms of their personality and their character. So some may be scared to talk in front of a large group, when some may feel comfortable in a smaller group, in a unit. So I think it's really important sometimes that you do break it down into the units, because you might find a player who wouldn't necessarily speak in front of the whole group or the whole staff may have more to say in a smaller unit meeting.
Actually, that's a great one there as well. Good point. Sometimes you might have to direct a question at people. So you might have to choose the person wisely, and you might have to choose the complexity of the question as well. It might have to be something simple to someone, just to make sure you're not putting them under any stress, that they know the answer. Yeah, good point, Sean. That was it. Listen, just our final message, and then I'll stop sharing this and we'll take any questions. For coaches out there, the key for us, what we do is create culture, the high performance culture. They all need to understand that if they want to achieve more in the game, they need to have a high performance approach to it. Our job then as coaches, your job as coaches, guys, is to develop their environment, holistic environment. It's not just about on the pitch, it's off the pitch. It's physical, it's mental, it's psychological, not mental. It's even about nutrition, even about flexibility in the body for injury prevention, because it's so important that through the formative years that you try to play as much football as possible. You don't want them going through a growth spurt and then injured every 3 to 6 weeks, muscle injuries. And then obviously it's manage their behaviors, get them to understand what it's like being part of a team in and around your training ground, cleaning your dressing room. If you see a piece of paper in your training ground, don't walk by it. Oh, well, it's not my piece of paper. It doesn't matter. But it's your environment. You should be part of something that's much bigger. Pick it up and put it in the bin. That's what I would say. Okay. Well, that would be something that we sort of put together for you guys. If you have any questions, we'll take it away.
Yeah, this has been fantastic, Jason and Sean. I appreciate it. Are you the real you when coaching, or do you have a coach's character in front of the players?
I'll let Sean answer that. Sean, am I the real me, or do I change?
No, you're the real you. I think that's important that you are yourself, because I think that kids are not stupid, and obviously the older they get, the wiser they become. And I think it's really important that you show your personality and let it out. And everyone's personality is really different. As a coach, everybody has a different coaching style, and I think that you need to stick with you feeling comfortable and what works for you. So whether it's distance with a player, whether you really engage, I think that's something Jason's taught me, certainly through my coaching education, is to be yourself is one of the most important aspects of coaching.
So important.
At what age does physical conditioning become a key consideration for player development? And how do you approach this?
Okay, for me personally, I think all ages. Now, you're going to think, what do you mean? He's going to have kids doing weights at 7 years of age. That's not what I mean. What I mean, physical conditioning is a broad range of, obviously, a broad range of disciplines. So the first one could be just motor skills at a young age. Running, jumping, twisting, bending, fun games. Kids don't like standing in straight lines. So if you're coaching anything from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, don't put them in bus queues. You'll find out you're always giving out to them and you're going home frustrated and you're taking her out on your wife and she hates you then. You don't want any of that. Kids don't want to be standing still. So don't make them stand still. Give them something to do. Involve. Now, this is going to be crazy. I've done a lot of work in the States. Involve the parents at a younger age. Let the parents become bridges, just standing with their legs open or something. And the kids have to crawl underneath when they're a younger age or pass a ball. And then you're working on motor skills. So how does it all come together? Then when they get a little bit older, they start to hit growth spurts. So flexibility. You know, give them a program in stretching. Make sure the muscles, as they grow, and make sure the muscles are growing with them. Now, a lot of them won't happen because the tendons will be shorter, the muscles will grow, won't grow, and then all of a sudden you get muscle injuries. This is all, for me, this is physical conditioning. Then as they get older, again, body weight. So build a core, a strong back and strong core. Strong, this might sound strange, a strong bum with good squats and lunges, because they're the big muscle groups that trigger a lot of your smaller muscles in isolation. So for your hamstring, like a problem with your hamstrings and your groins, you need a good foundation of strength in your core, your back, and your bum. So body weight squats and lunges will do that. And then as they get older, once it's in a professional environment, someone who knows what they're doing, and it's a controlled environment, introduce light weights that's position specific. So you don't want a midfielder now who was like, I see all the Man United jerseys. So you don't want a Roy Keane now building muscle where he's not covering the ground as much as he did. So make sure that what you're doing is all working in terms in relation to his position. Like if I'm a Sean St. Ledger who was a centre back and I had to play against Kaka, I have to be quick acceleration, deceleration. If I'm a Van Dijk and I have to play against someone else who's 6 foot, I need to be able to be powerful, to be able to jump from standing still. So, you know, you have to take in effect where the player is playing and the age. So basically, physical conditioning starts at a young age with motor skills, moving on to flexibility, moving on to body weight, and then moving on to monitored weights from position specific. Hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely. Do you recommend multi-sports at the youth, so GAA and rugby and basketball, etc.?
There's 2 ways. Sean, do you want to come in on this one?
Do you know, I always play football and I love football, and that's all I ever wanted to be. So for me, playing other sports, I really enjoyed maybe just the variation of being, you know, if your goal is to go and be a professional footballer or a professional soccer player, then you really need to work hard and put the hours in, because the elite, where it's the LeBron James basketballer, the hours that they put in constantly on the court, it's phenomenal. So for me, I think it's fantastic to have other hobbies and play other sports. But I think if you want to become a professional soccer player, then that's where you really have to hone your skills, perfect them, work on the things you're not so good at, and continue your strengths.
Okay, can I just say one thing on that as well? I'll align it to periodization, because that was a couple of questions. Physical conditioning. You have to be careful with the kids as well, because if they go into baseball on a Monday, American football on a Tuesday, soccer training on the Wednesday, back to baseball on the Thursday, soccer training on the Friday, sure, again, it comes match day, they've no energy left. So then they're physically not able to carry out what you want them to do. And second of all, they're a high risk of injury. So that's the way I would look at it.
I think it's interesting I think a lot of people would have seen The Last Dance, the documentary, the Michael Jordan one. And when he went to baseball, his trainer had to almost redevelop his body into basketball again. So maybe that's something that we've kind of just touched on there with obviously Jason, you know.
Interesting. What can you tell us about your assessment and selection strategies and processes for coaches?
Great question. So basically, we get in. We would scour everybody around Ireland, all the best players, and have a look through all what player ID and our scouts. And when we come in, we might bring in the top 45 players. And what we would do then is we would put what we would we form a ranking sheet. So our best goalkeepers, our right backs, our centre backs, our midfielders, and so forth. And what we do is we would then put our best centre backs against our best strikers, because that brings the best out of them, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So when we do our selection process, obviously we went through player identification. We look for the key actions in the positions. The process then when they come in is we put the best players against the best players as often as we can, because then you really know, can they step it up when they play the England, the Spains, the Hollands, the Polands, and so forth. So that's what we do. We make sure we put in the training environment as best as we possibly can. The best players against the best players as often as possible.
Interesting.
And also, I think just because you haven't got into the first squad, I think it's something that Jason's done really well, is that, we still monitor the players, because a player who may not be fully developed at the start of the season may go through a growth spurt, and a couple of months later, he's functioning a lot smoother than what he was at the start of the season. So I would say that, never write off the players that possibly don't make your first squad, and to continue to monitor them and assess them through the assessment days. Because, sometimes I think last season, we had a player who came in through an injury at the second part of the season, and he ended up being one of our best players, Dennis Sean, in the second back. So, so I think it's always keeping on top and always monitoring, because players, let's take Jamie Vardy, for instance, didn't come into into Leicester City until he was 24, 27 years of age, and now has gone on to have an unbelievable career. So, we always have to continue and assess and monitor.
Great. I really appreciate his time. Last question here. Can you give some examples of how your players engage in self-reflection, game analysis, and individual player logs? You kind of touched on this with the booklets that you give out, but are there anything else that you guys do?
Do you want to take a shot?
No, but I think certainly we have one-to-ones. I think that communication is a major key. Drawing the answers out from them. And what we're looking for, I think, at the start of the conversation is honesty. We'd be honest with you, you be honest with us. How do you feel? How did you feel today? What do you think you possibly could have done better today? Was there any external circumstances as to why did you not sleep very well last night? Was you nervous before you stood for the national anthem? The temperature, I know that obviously I've played in America, the temperature's real hot. And for some of our players going to play into Spain, it really affects them. And so we're looking for communication. We obviously would go through their clips. We would, as a staff, assess the player, not just their performance, but as Jason touched on, the player and the person around the hotel, how he's settling in with the group. So we take all this into consideration, and we give feedback, but it's both ways.
You might outline the 4 questions we ask in the training camp. They devised their own. So basically, sorry, Sean. We bring them in a training camp. When we've 45 players, we might narrow that down to 32, and then we bring them in for a training camp before we select a squad of 18, say, for example. And we ask them 4 questions. So we break them into groups. The first question that we ask is, now, you're now the head coach. We put the players, we reverse it, put the players in our roles. You're now the head coach. What do you want from the staff? So we write these down on a flip chart. So then we know exactly what they want. And it's always good session, Sean, isn't it? And honesty, feedback, learn the game. The second question then we ask is, right now, you are the players. And what do you want? Now, you're the players, what you want from the staff, and you're the staff, what you want from the players. So we reverse the question. The third one then is, right, what is your individual goals for the season? And then they write all them down. And then the fourth question we ask them then is, devise a code of conduct to be part of the team for the season. So they would work in 4 groups. You all get 10 minutes on each question in groups, write it on flip chart paper. And I love this. And the reason I love this is because everywhere we travel, don't we, Sean? We bring it with us and we stick it up on the wall. And all the time we make a reference back. That was the start of the season. This is your work. This is what you wanted. This was your rules. Let's just make sure we abide by them going forward.
Love that.
And that's how, again, we would give it, that's an example of how we would engage them as well. And the booklet is self-reflection. So in the booklet that Sean was talking about, after each game, the questions are in is how, first of all, it would be the 5 W's. What went well in terms of your role in your performance today? What do you need to improve on? As a team, where do you think we were weak or where do you think we were strong? So they would then write all that down. And each morning, the booklet comes down for breakfast. They hand the booklet to the staff, and then we go through that throughout the day. And then when we have our one-to-one meetings, as Sean alluded to, we then can make a reference to the booklet, so we have something to talk about. So it's definitely a dialogue throughout the day.
Brilliant. Jason, Sean, I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time. This has been fascinating. It's been an hour and 45 minutes and it's flown by. So I appreciate it. As always, I mean, for everyone who's watching, there's a few actually Glens coaches watching as well. A lot of these things would probably be familiar from the technical plan that we're trying to build at our club, and that's because I'm doing my education through the FAI with Jason as my mentor. So it's really cool to see and good for me to see as well. So Jason, Sean, I appreciate you guys very, very much.
No problem. See you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Next week is our last one. We have Dennis Irwin going to join us on Monday to go over his fantastic career. We can ask him any questions that we might have. So thanks and stay safe. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Jason, Sean, appreciate it.
Bye.